Your face and your body is an entire microcosm, an entire landscape of not only your entire body, but the world outside of you. In many schools of thoughts in traditional Chinese medicine, such as in the field of acupuncture, your face contains hills, valleys, energy pathways, waterways, such as the drainage system of your lymphatic system. So as I mentioned in past videos, as the sun is emanating at higher levels of frequency, and as I also mentioned, it's not that it's getting hotter. Yes, it is, but it's because of the unnatural earth that's not in alignment with the ascension of the sun and Mother Earth, always the same. So as Mother Earth complies to the changes, the metamorphosis of what's happening outside of us, within the earth, within a human, within the vessel, because we're not separate from the earth, we just think we are, there must be changes in our energetic fields the same. As we ascend and increase our capacity to the greater conscious field, the sun, the universe, and the earth, they have no choice but to reciprocate. And because we live in a collective energetic biofield, that we're not indeed separate, even for those who think that they're separate, we all get impacted if you see it as one being impacted. How you perceive, how you think, let's say in a negative connotation versus a positive one, versus the state of neutrality and just receiving, right? That is the human experience. How you construct this change, it's how you're going to handle, deal with, or just release and let go and come into complete flow with it. Once you start to tap in and tune in to the microfield or the microcosm of your inner landscape, this is when you become like the divine farmer of your entire being. Hence the inner wisdom of seeing what outside of you is not reflecting you. Anything that's not of nature, such as you not having complete access to the soil, to the lands, inhibiting us, as I've mentioned it in past videos, occluding our natural state with elements of the earth, but that was man-made, that was created, such as synthetic materials, such as rubber, such as plastic, right? Such as the chemistry of asphalt, pavement, and other perceivable natural ingredients, but made unnaturally. Just as a donut or a bagel. That's why donuts and bagels are very hard to digest with people, because of the way they get kneaded. The proteins and the carbohydrates somewhat become more complex when you knead them, giving your body a more challenging time to digest this intense process of kneading the dough of a bagel, of pizza, as an example. And that's why they say bread is not good for you these days. It's because of our stomachs. Our stomach is attempting to engender this change so that it can digest it. So you end up with indigestion. Is leading me to your face, your facial morphology. Facial morphology in the realms of divinity, for those who practice traditional Chinese medicine and other fields, offer somewhat of a mirror of the landscape of how you're governing your own life and your own field. Everything is a reflection of everything. So once you have the tools and the resources outside of you, let's say that you start paying attention as to your cheekbones. People who have protruding cheekbones are people who, just think of it as a protruding hill, a hill that has peaked. Your internal dialogue peaking to its maximum capacity. So people who have protruding cheekbones, one would say that people who have strong heart, their biorhythm of their heartbeat emanates strongly. So it wouldn't be unnatural for that particular person, as in this example, to walk as a heart person. They might be a fire person within the 5-element theory: metal, water, wood, fire, and earth. So a fire person emanates, right? Even if you're unhealthy, you emanate, you know? I'll give you an example. During the times when I probably wasn't healthy with my eating habits and with my mental state, and we're talking maybe in my 20s, maybe into my 30s, and even as I was practicing acupuncture, I was still working on myself in that way. Let's say, as an example, I wasn't feeling good, you know? This is why I'm visiting the doctor. Doctor comes, I'm like, "Hi doctor, how are you? Look at you, nice to meet you, woo," right? Versus, that would be a fire person. When the doctor goes out the room, I go from happy to like, "Oh shit, you know, feel good." Doctor comes back in the room, "Hi, what's wrong with me? Am I gonna be okay? And I'm exaggerating, but this is a fire person. I'm a fire person. So someone who's walking or working strongly with their fire by nature could have been genetically with the predisposition of having fire, such as the 12 zodiacs. Well, you have the 5 elements the same. So if you pay attention to somebody who has protruding cheekbones, have fun with that. They may be old souls, so they may not show the fire right away. How would you know an old soul? Someone who has sunken eyes. Have you ever seen like the supra and the infraocular bones, and their eyes seem to be like deeper than their face? I don't want to say skeletal-like, but you can see it, right? I don't know how to explain it any better. That's somebody who is an old soul, has been humanly incarnated, perhaps many, many lives. Again, using this school of thought. Doesn't mean that they're aware that they're old souls, but they do contain a lot of knowledge and a lot of wisdom. Pay attention to how they flow, how they move. Most of the time unbothered, right? Oftentimes their presence will ruffle the feathers of other people because they will not take your shit so easily, because they've been there, done that so many lifetimes. And I guess you would say, you would argue is that their challenge is to come to terms that they are indeed who they are, and that one person with those type of eyeballs to come to terms that their truth is always from within, you know, hence sunken eyeballs. Well, again, nothing is absolute. Everyone's different, again, such as their blueprint and their template as to why they chose to incarnate here, which is why you would see it more of an art, or as a medical practitioner, as I have served for a little over a decade, then I would see it more of a clinical setting, so that I can see as to why they chose to visit me, and to use these bits of information as a way to understand who they are, to the best of my ability, my knowledge, and my intuition, which will allow me the best strategy into helping them to come back into balance, or they would say homeostasis, once again, based on their complaint, right? Their medical complaint, as an example. So as the sun is emanating new frequencies, you're going to see your face, your body either gain a lot of weight, lose a lot of weight. As for me, it's been going a lot of like Xiao Yang, they would say, this way, that way, in and out, out to in. So I've been gaining a lot of weight, gaining muscle, you feel me? And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, lose like 10 pounds, right? And that's my body's attempt as it changes different timelines, different territories, different atmospheres. That's my body attempting to self-regulate, come into a balance, and also to remind me when to, let's say, micro-fast, when to empty my stomach, when to eat more mindfully. Believe it or not, sometimes in a playful way, when to eat pizza. Sometimes it's psychological. Sometimes it's going back to something that's of a comfort food. Sometimes it's I need a couple of slices of pizza so I could tap into my inner self, the playful self, because of the way I've associated with pizza, as an example. And what happens if I eat pizza 3 days in a row? Then I'll get nauseous. I'll feel the dampness, the phlegm, because cheese, dairy, eggs, as an example, are very yin, as in yin and yang, very yin nourishing. So anything that's too yin, such as supplementation in general, then your body will engender a yin state, and it will take a lot of the yang, the fire within, to work more extreme to digest all of that yin state of food. Hence, you will become phlegmy. You will have stasis, as an example, right? Now, somebody who's really sickly, who requires a lot of yin, this is why they could probably eat a couple of hard-boiled eggs for a couple of weeks, as long as they're aware that it's medication to them, as long as they see food as medicine in that way. Because then what happens is that you, on a conscious scale, you start to program as to the why you're receiving it, and it becomes no different than herbal medicine. It's the same. But this same person would listen to their body, not just always the doctor. The doctor may say, eat eggs for 2 weeks straight, you know? We can build up your yin, and with that yin, then we can start working with your yang. Your yang is your, like, let's say in this example, is your musculature, your vitality, your expression into this world, right? And the yang needs the yin the same to engender the yang. And in return, too much yang, too much of the sick patriarchy can collapse both the yang and the yin at the same time, as we're experiencing now within this human state of consciousness. We are collapsing the false yang, right? Because the yang energy, the sick patriarchy, is getting sickened as rightfully so that the yin can engender and come, the matriarchy can come to embody alongside with the yin. So in essence, whether you're male or female, we're all experiencing a collapse. Stronger that you hold on to the collapse, whether it's family, friends, right? False relationships, right? False identities, false environments, and false jobs that never served you, but you did it because you needed the money. So even the false sense of how you attribute to money with a sense of scarcity, that has to collapse, because scarcity mindset has to be abundant before you can attract the abundance of who you are. And abundance is never limited to the wealth of money. It's not separate, but it's also the wealth of the air that you breathe, the water, the 5 elements, right? All of the elements, right? We were indoctrinated to think that wealth is measured in time. Check out another video in the past that I made, that everything's measured. So now you have to what? Ration everything. And that was trained upon us so that we could live within this false matrix, which again goes back to this video. It's collapsing. So things are getting hotter. Yang is going to its extreme, as in fire. Allow the fire to burn. There's no other way around it. Until humans, the ones that actually are the builders, the creators, until they get the hell out of the fire, because they're the ones who created this in the first place, whether they collapse, whether they physically die, or they retire, for the new energies to come, the new minds, the new eyes, the ones that remember how Earth is supposed to look. None of this politics, religion, nothing physical. All of this politics, all of the religion, the last 2,000 to 5,000 years, easily has been founded based on this false narrative, based on this false light. So your face, your body, your temperament, how you see yourself when you're alone, and how you see yourself when the world is reflecting back at you, they all become powerful opportunities, even greater than any acupuncturist, even greater than me. Damn, that's a hard one for me to swallow. Even greater than me. Yeah, fuck. That you are the one. Never mind the chosen one, the anointed one. You choose to be the one. Hence, you become anointed. Anointed means that you are now engendering your fluid-like state. You're not just a water body. You are an energy being. And once you make space and room to engender these transitions, to allow the sun, the earth, and to even allow the false light to train you and remind you all of the things that you've been, that you are now putting to rest. This is when you start to allow the false side of you to finally die. Most of us are afraid of death. That's why most of us are so fascinated or afraid to age. I got dimples. So if you look at this picture, it's a very vague picture of your channel system, of your meridian lines. For thousands of years, your electromagnetic field, your bio within electromagnetic field that they have termed as your chi, your vital life force. Oops, that was me getting excited. See, I'm a fire person. When I smile, you see my protruding cheeks. These ascended masters have been mapping everything out for their themselves, so they can learn, so they can remember. And as they start to align with other masters who dive into this type of medicine. So again, that picture is pretty vague, but it's giving just a basic fundamental, so you can see, as an example, your cheeks are like the hills, right? You can also say that as the sun starts getting hotter, and now all of a sudden you're starting to show imperfections or eczema or anything, or any dermatitis that's related to your skin, or patches, or what you would perceive as age marks or lines, let's say down this way, down that way, right? That would be your stomach channel. Now, it's not always limited to the stomach, but it's showing that the stomach is looking to rebalance. So if you see cracks on your face this way, I'm just using this as an example, then you would say that your stomach is like energetically dehydrated. Think of cracks, think of the desert, right? Think of your face as being the landscape of the liveliness that even the desert on this earth, Even places like Arizona and Utah, as an example, 15 to 25,000 years ago, on this linear way of thinking, it was once an entire forest, right? And you would say that every 15 to 25,000 years, cyclically, it goes back into the forest. So it's not dead, it's alive. It's just in a different engendered state of being as Mother Earth is looking to come into complete harmony. I always say harmonics because it's the dance and the rhythm of the flow between the entire universe outside of us, reflecting back at us, the universe that you are. It's not a matter of what you believe or how you even know. It's a matter of being a soulful human process as compared to just simply being, I'm just a person, I'm just a human being. Yeah, you are, but that's one of many, many possibilities. You don't have to just lose that, but you can also gain consciousness and awareness to allow your body in a playful state as you're eating pizza so that you can observe that perhaps I need to start working on my stomach. Is it physically? Is it that I'm really like eating a lot of crappy, greasy, dry foods or a lot of baked foods? So when you bake foods in a high temperature and eat those kind of foods for a long time, think about that. The food that you're consuming energetically as you baked it versus just like frying it on a short term or boiling it, it changes the chemistry of what you're about to consume. If you eat baked foods every day, depends on the person again, you can dry up your system. It will dehydrate because it's going to require fluid. So it's going to, just like think of like the desert, cracks on the desert. So doesn't mean that you're dying. Oh, maybe. Maybe you're dying. But it's also to allow you to reprogram that aging. Yes, it's natural that your body starts to remorph and starts to naturally age to a wiser version of yourself. But to grow older is not necessary. It's that the power of your mind, that what it believes it becomes. And again, it engenders the change. And the less conscious you are of it, the more your conscious mind gets put aside, and the more faster it becomes, the more faster you age. Because the mind it can be horrible, it can be awesome, it can be neutral, but the mind is yet that powerful that what you believe, you create. You keep putting your belief on it, whatever that is, it will take form. Maybe not always exactly how you think it, but something always has to take form. That's why Kung Fu is important, right? That's why taking care of yourself is important, because if you keep engendering change with training yourself, right? For some people, 3 weeks, 3 days. Some people maybe longer. But with the discipline, using your mind in a constructive way, you're going to construct your form body. Then as you start to improve, right? Now the cracks in your face because you're hydrating more with more structured water, such as coconut water, such as watermelons, such as vegetables that are very high in structured water content, such as a cucumber. Now you're hydrating more. Now you're listening to your morphology of your face. Stomach channel continues from here down, and it also actually continues this way along the jawline. So now you start to see issues here. It can still be stomach related issues. The lips can represent the intestines, the stomach, and the spleen. So people who have spleen or pancreatic type of related imbalances, oftentimes seen as sugar imbalances, meaning the islets of Langerhans within your pancreas is not functioning optimally with the creation of insulin, because perhaps might be consuming a lot of sugars, as an example, right? Or maybe you're not consuming a lot of sugar, but your life is not sweet, and you're always searching for the sweet person, somebody like me, because you feel like it's missing in your life, right? So you're always searching for an environment, a person, or a place. You're looking for that sweetness in life, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But what happens is that you're not looking at it, you're not seeing it, and you're not attracting it from within. You don't feel sweet, so you're seeing it in somebody else. So you start consuming comfort food, as an example. You didn't find that sweet person, or maybe that person is the comfort food. There might be a little toxicity in that person, even though they also offer you comfort. So now you're exchanging a lot of more energy with your thoughts. You're like saying, how the hell did I get here? Your thoughts, as they start to overthink as an anxiety, right? Where do you think the energy is coming from? Well, from a traditional Chinese perspective, it's coming from the spleen and the pancreas. So they call that the thinking mind organ. Again, speaking about how that's responsible for creating a balance between your glucose levels, it makes sense where that this is where the energy starts to overwork. So oftentimes when you have too much blood in your sugars, not always because of what you're eating with food, but it could be how you're consuming to constantly attempt to satiate the sweetness in your mouth, in your tooth, and the sweetness in your heart, the sweetness in your body, and in your presence. So now you're constantly thinking versus manifesting, versus creating the kung fu, versus creating the intelligence of now rerouting the thoughts so that you can now self-satisfy yourself, so that the dopamine levels start to self-regulate, no longer searching outside of you for the pleasure zones. So automatically you will start seeing maybe like your area here, your jawline, right? It starts to sag over time, right? You think you're getting older. So yeah, it could be a lot of things. It could be your thyroid, but quite commonly is when you see things dropping, right? Like like commonly people get this drop, right? That's the small intestine channel, but it could also be partly the sanjiao, which is the triple burner channel. So the small intestine has a direct relationship also with the pancreas and the spleen energetically using the 5-element theory. And when you start seeing things drop, your face sagging, you know, it's not that you're aging, it's that you require upright. You require something to bring the vitality of the upright chi. And until you do it and tap in to self-regulate in that way and experiencing that within yourself, then the indoctrination is that they taught us to do it through foods. And while it works, coffee works. I enjoy my cup of coffee almost just about every day. But coffee for me is sacred. It's no different than cacao or a banana who loves to grow next to the cacao. So banana with pure cacao, like cocoa in English, cocoa, they work synergistically in harmony. Same thing with coffee. Once you reprogram that coffee, as an example, is to allow me to enjoy the simplicities of life as I live self-regulated. You drink that cup of coffee, it's not going to harm you, it doesn't harm me, because this is how I'm speaking of it. Going back to the face, see up here, the stomach 8 area around here, right? It could mean a lot of other things, but as an example, you might have a lot of stomach heat. So again, a lot of people start to thin their hairlines. It's not always genetics, or genetically might have a lot of hot stomachs in the lineage, in the family line. So everybody might have passed on that. So you can reverse that once you understand it's coming from too much foods, too much phlegm producing foods that are now hot, not just dairy that could be cold and cooling, but now fried foods, right? And then your temperament, maybe that you're a heart person, right? Or that you're a wood person, you're directional, you enjoy constructive arguments, you enjoy sports, that feeds you. So now your face is angular, trigonal, right? It's natural for a young adult and a young woman in their teens into their 20s starting to search for their life, carving a new life that would be attributed to wood in the most basic sense. So it's natural that you will have this chiseled trigonal shape when you're younger, right? So somebody who's older, who by nature might be a wood person, who may or may not have protruding heart, but may have a triangle or trigonal face, that person might have strong wood. And a person with strong wood can over-control the earth. Within the 5-element theory, wood over-controls earth. It can over-control earth. So that person might be the one kung fu master that might be losing their hairlines, because I notice a lot of wood people that tend to be really great at kung fu. They put their chi really strong because that's part of maybe the nature of the kung fu they attracted, and that is a system, right? And I do that sometimes when I need to raise my chi. And you bring it up, and you bring it up, and you do that every day. You're cooking up your chi, and as long as you're balanced, you're okay. But if you have an imbalance and your hair are receptors, then you start cooking things up. And if it starts happening here at first, then it goes back into the notion that, okay, for me to continue my hard kung fu, what do I need to self-regulate and to perhaps bring back my receding hairline? Now, I'm not gonna give prescriptions out because no two people are alike. And so what's good for me, what might be good for you, might not be good for the next person, because it's all about having an affinity to foods. I could say one thing is good for you, right? Such as Dr. Sebi, he mentions real sea moss. And it might work for almost everybody, I don't know. But there are people where it may not work with, because it's not the CMOS, it's not Dr. Sebi, it's you. It's that you may have an affinity to a different kind of food. So again, a trained or a qualified person who works within the auric field of intercommunication and may know acupuncture or a system, as the examples I'm providing, will be able to really pay attention and see what is it that works for you. So yeah, you can hit me up, make an appointment. You'd be surprised how almost everything in your body can heal. It's up to your belief system, how we can start to not just collapse your belief systems, but to bring and appropriate a new system that may not be of belief, but maybe of a knowing. Like, I know I'm going to learn how to drive a car. I know I don't have my permit or my license yet. I know my face is trigonal, so I'm a teenager, so I'm doing my best to chisel. So I'm busting my ass and busting my tail to get that. You feel what I'm saying? So as you get older, you might be more of an earth person, right? You might be the center of all attention. You've been there, done that. Everybody's coming to see you. An earth person would be more, I don't want to say square, but it could be more like boxy, and more boxy with a little bit more flesh. A water person would be a fleshy person, right? Somebody who's rounded. So in theory, be somebody who has done everything in life and they're ready to let it all go. Think of Santa Claus. Round, right? Think of very wise people. Think of very powerful psychics and mediums. I mean, like real powerful ones that were born that way. They tend to be a little bit more of the round side. Why? Because you require a lot of the water body to tap into very powerful levels of mediumship, interdimensional. So the more water body that you have, the more you're ready and able and willing to let go of all of the material life, even your body, because it's almost like saying you are completing, right? It doesn't mean you're getting older and you're dying, but you might have been born already knowing that you're going to still live to be 100, but you might be 20 or 30, and you might be a water person, so you might be more rounder in your face. As an example, you might be more fleshy, right? And now you're upset, right? Because you're like, well, I know I have all these gifts and I need to put these gifts away, or some of it away, or I want to do something new, right? Like an epigenetics, possibilities of something new, changing genetic markers, changing predispositions. Yeah, you're capable of doing that. Again, systems. You start engendering new systems. They don't have to be belief systems. They become your carpentry. But now you don't want to be a carpenter and you don't want to grind. You don't want to be this trigonal, even though it looks good, man. You know what I mean? You have this trigonal, strong jawline, and you have heart. You have strong, right? That's pretty cool, right? But keeping with theories here, you don't want to be so fleshy, you know, and it's bothering you, but yet you want to still work within your psychic nature, right? So now you become more of an earth person, right? The earth, what does the earth do? What the earth embodies the water, right? It gives it a criteria. It says you can be a water person, but just within this environment. We don't need to be water everywhere right now, no. So you start to develop a facial morphology. Once you start to engender who you really are, it starts to show itself in your face, right? You become more cognizant to it. So now you're now amplifying it. You're now applying more yang, more consciousness to it. You're honoring the yin, the nature of your vitality. Being a water person, and now you're engendering your earth. Our earth person, somebody that loves to sing, somebody who likes to make apple pie for everybody. You know, granny type energy, or in a male energy, somebody who in presence who might be stoic and quiet, or they seem to be like that, and they're just like natural warriors. You see that a lot in the Amazon. You see a lot of earth people. You see boxy like people, almost like a boxer, like they build up that kind of like boxy like shape of a body, right? And as an example, that would be considered a possibility, an earth person. So an earth person, because their power is earth, and in the 5-element theory, earth is stomach and spleen and pancreas. The spleen is seen as both spleen and pancreas within the earth element. Then that might be your strength. So you might draw a lot of your capacity through the earth. And you, when you were young, maybe you had fire, so you had protruding cheekbones, right? There you go. And you started to master that fire is the mother of earth, using the 5-element theory again. And so you wanted to now channel the fire into the earth, because you feel like this is my nature. You know, I'm a grid worker in this earth. I'm here to protect the lands. I'm here to be present. I'm here to be one with the earth. So now the protruding cheekbones, right? start to change within the construct of the agriculture of your face, the landscape of your face, excuse me. So now you start to become an earth person. So yeah, pay attention to marks in your face that you were born with or that start to develop. Don't be so quick to take them off, to remove them. Listen to yourself. Find out what that means. It could be that you're transitioning into a new state of yourself. And a lot of the things that are of imbalance of you that no longer serve you, it's going to show up in your body, of course, but it's going to ultimately show up in your face to bring it to your attention. Love yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be playful with all of this. Even when bugs bite you, they're intelligent. Nature is intelligent. This is all universal consciousness. It's one form. They strategically bite you in the right places. Mosquitoes too, where you need to pay attention. Blisters, or again, aging. You can go on Google, and again, your fascial tissue, right? Your fascial tissue could be a combination of certain elements in the 5-element theory. It could be anywhere from wood to the Sanjiao channel, right, which is part of the fire element, right? But it could also be earth, but it could also be metal, because your fascial tissue is also part of your wei qi. Your wei meaning your protector qi, right? And your lungs attribute to governing your wei qi. So that's why when you catch a cold easily, right, that's your wei qi looking to self-regulate, and your lungs, right, it starts to work a certain way to expectorate, to transition, to transmute, and to drain mucus, right? Right? Somebody who has weak lungs could show up anywhere in the skin. It could show up in your fascial tissue. So it's not necessary that your face is aging. It could be that you may be depleted with your lungs. So consuming a lot of like foods that are like consuming things such as astragalus, right, or honey fried astragalus. It's a Chinese herb. Making a tea out of it has an affinity to the lungs, has an affinity to your wei qi, has affinity to hydration, because astragalus by itself could be a little bit drying. So when you honey fry it, the biochemistry between the honey and astragalus changes constitution, changes its herbal form and prescription. It no longer becomes drying. It becomes now helping you to rid of the unhealthy fluid and phlegm from your lungs, as an example, and to promote the healthy fluids that your lungs require, such as H3O2, structured water, which is not just structured water, it's crystalline or crystallized water. So your fascial tissue is lively and drenched with this lively H3O2 crystalline water. So you're a crystal being the same. You're a conductor, such as piezoelectricity. So doing exercises like this, as I always say, this way's down, this way's up, right? Right? You're governing your skin, your fascial tissue, your lungs, the same, right? Nice and relaxed. Be kind to yourself and breathe. Up to down, up to down, up. Think of one lung going down. Think of another lung going down. So not only are you promoting to expectorate and to allow the mechanics of your lymphatic system to drain what has been stagnating, you're also promoting a healthier lung to work synergistically, and thus promoting your liveliness again. So if you feel like you're aging a certain way or a certain place, that was a bug. Hi. I'm in my yin right now, so I'm like, hi, how are you today? Tomorrow I might be in my yang, so look out. So there's a lot of videos to help you to work with fascial tissue, you know, all those exercises. It works. It actually does work. It's very powerful. You can actually reverse your aging simply by that, but don't simply rely on that. That's what I'm trying to say, is because it's coming from the inside out, and it's telling you also that your face is very much alive. So you have to train your face no separate from your body. You have to train your mind no separate from your heart. I'm trying to look wise now. Love you guys. Bye.